Happy Easter to everyone. It is another edition of the Sports Wrap with Michael Kravetz. And it's going to be a shortened form of the show today. Going to try and cram a lot in as much as we can. And we're going to start it off with none other than the Pittsburgh Penguins. The winning streak is still continuing. 15 games and counting now. 3 away from setting a new NHL record of breaking the old 17 wins in a row record by the 92-93 Penguins. So will really be something to see in these next 3 games. They got Buffalo and then the Rangers twice. So Buffalo's struggling. I think that's going to be a win for the Penguins, but back-to-back games with the Rangers, never know because the Penguins win that first one. Rangers coming off of playing them. Maybe they'll have a different game plan. And it'll maybe cause some havoc for the Penguins. But before we get into all the games this past week, and there were a lot of major happenings with this team, we're going to talk about the huge trading extravaganza. Ray Shero once again working his trade deadline magic, although he did it a lot earlier than in most seasons. It started this past Sunday when the Pens traded for Brenden Morrow, who was the captain for the Dallas Stars, in exchange for Joe Morrow and a 5th-round pick. The Penguins also got a 3rd-round pick. So really, they had the talented young defenseman in Wilkes-Barre. They have all the depth. That was one of the big things people were talking about coming into the year. They have a ton of experienced defensemen and also young defensemen. And if they were going to be trying to push for a trade coming into this year, you figured that at least a couple of them would be moved. And Joe Morrow, 1st-round pick in 2011, wasn't coming along as fast as the Penguins had hoped, but he still showed a lot of talent down there in Wilkes-Barre. He was shipped to Dallas. And it shouldn't be unfamiliar territory with the Penguins trading with the Stars, because if you remember, they traded for James Neal. They got rid of Alex Goligoski a couple years ago, and they also got Matt Niskanen. So Morrow coming to Pittsburgh, he will be familiar with Neal, and he'll be familiar with Niskanen, so that's always a big thing too. And and just a disclaimer there, both Joe Morrow and Brenden Morrow are not related, same last name. And what the Penguins are going to get now with Morrow, he's been in the league his whole career with the Dallas Stars. They drafted him in 1997. 528 points in 835 career games. That's pretty much almost a point every 2 games. And he's going to bring grit, and he's going to bring leadership to a team that, I'm not saying Crosby's not a good enough leader, but it's going to bring a guy who, he's been to the playoffs multiple times, he's won a cup. He's just going to bring more experience to the table, kind of along the lines of when they traded for Bill Guerin back when they made their first cup win in 2009 in a long time. So I think that's what it's going to provide. And Morrow hasn't really done that well this year. He was playing on the 4th line for a time in Dallas. Only 5 assists, 6 goals in 29 games. But the plan for him coming in, he would play alongside Malkin and Neal on line 2. Had 42 points in 78 playoff games. That's what I'm telling you. He shows up in the playoffs. And he also has familiarity with Crosby playing on the 2010 Olympic gold medal team for Canada. So that's always nice to look at too. So that was what Shero was looking for. He was trying to just bolster the lineup even more, add some more grit and leadership to the team. And not only about less than 24 hours later, he pulls another trade. Shero trades the Pens' 2nd-round pick from this year and a 2nd-round pick for next year for defenseman Douglas Murray from the San Jose Sharks. And Murray, he is 6'3", 245 pounds, just a big, rough, physical defenseman. And a lot of people are saying, oh yeah, he's kind of like Hal Gill, and that's what the Penguins kind of needed. They had Hal Gill when they made the 2 cup runs, and they really haven't had a big physical defenseman, so that's what they're going to get. And Murray, he's a defensive specialist, he's a stay-at-home defenseman. He's going to bully guys around when they're trying to get to the net. And, he doesn't do much on the offensive side, but that's not what the Penguins need. They needed a defensive guy, and he's played his whole career, just like Morrow with one team. Murray playing with the Sharks. This is his 8th season, and he is being paired along with Niskanen right now, so you hope that they can form a nice chemistry, so to speak. And the one question that I was really thinking about was okay, where is he going to play, and what defenseman are they going to take out? And it just so happens that with these injuries, they really haven't had to address that. So I don't think it's going to be a while until we see all the defensemen healthy, who's going to be playing with who. And I also want to mention that Douglas Murray's nickname, which is Crankshaft, I mean, how can you not like a guy with that nickname? And how can you not be, like a bruiser and enforcer with that kind of name? So that's just, I think he's going to be a defenseman that's going to be here for a while. He's going to be here more than a year, and I think he'll just prove to be a good fit for this team. And what do you know, later in the week, the Penguins make another astounding blockbuster deal. They end up getting the biggest prize many people were going to believe to be at the trade deadline in former captain, another captain, great right winger in Jarome Iginla from the Calgary Flames. And when I heard about this, I woke up Saturday morning and I was like, wait a minute, what? Or my mistake, I woke up Thursday morning and I was just like, wait a minute, what? And because I heard that the Penguins got I was reading the newspaper and my mom tells me, oh, did you hear about the new player the Penguins got? And I thought she was talking about Douglas Murray. I was like, yeah, I like him. And then I turn on NHL Network and I see that Iginla was traded to the Pens, and I was just like, wow, you got to be kidding me. Because I thought they were done adding pieces. Yeah, I thought they were done adding pieces, but it turns out that Shero once again pulls his deadline deal magic and was able to get Jarome Iginla from the Calgary Flames. I thought he was going to end up with the Bruins, possibly, the Blackhawks, or the Kings, but he ended up getting here. And the Bruins, they actually thought they had Iginla. Because in a Thursday afternoon press conference, Boston GM Peter Chiarelli thought that he had a deal in place to obtain Iginla. Many thought it was a done deal, and turns out it wasn't. Because when I woke up Thursday morning, and I was reading the newspaper, and my mom was telling me, oh, do you like the new Penguins' new player? And I thought she was talking about Douglas Murray, but it turned out that I was like, yeah, I do. But then I turned on the TV, NHL Network, and it says, oh, Jarome Iginla traded to the Penguins. I was like, you got to be kidding me. So it's just a miracle. I think that Shero got this deal done, and he did it by not giving up anyone, pretty much. They traded their 2013 first-round pick, and then 2 college prospects in Kenneth Augustino and Ben Hanowski. And what you're going to get with Iginla is just, it's unbelievable. Even though he's 35, I know he's old, and he hasn't done well this season. 9 goals, 13 points, or 13 assists in 29 games. He has over 500 goals in his career, over 500 assists. He is a former captain, along with Brenden Morrow. He's going to bring leadership to the team. He's been in the postseason a long time, even though it's been a while. He wanted to come here to win a cup. That's the bottom line. And the Flames, they made it to the Stanley Cup Final once, lost to the Lightning in 7 games. That was it. Comes to this Penguins team, and to play with Crosby and Malkin, I mean, they are the best team right now. Playing it wise and on paper now when you add Iginla. Neal, Malkin, Crosby, Iginla, Kunitz, Dupuis, Fleury. They're just unbelievable right now. And to do this in the midst of a 15-game winning streak, that's just incredible too, because now it's like you're just adding fuel to the fire. And all these teams now are seeing that this Penguins team is pretty much an all-star caliber lineup where you don't know who's going to hurt you, who's going to step up every night to be the MVP of the game. And with that, the only thing I was worried about in this trade was, okay, what is Vilesma going to do? I really don't want him to, separate line one with the chemistry that they've had together with Kunitz, Crosby, and Dupuis. But Bosma said he's not going to touch that line. Iginla's going to be on line 2 with Malkin and Neal. And then on the third line, it would be Morrow, Sutter, Cook. And then the fourth line, Adams, and then possibly a combination of Glass, Vitale, Jeffrey, Kennedy. So I really like that. And before the trade started, it started off Sunday night, before the trades happened, home against the Flyers. The Flyers are coming in, you know the rivalry. They wanted to end this winning streak for the Penguins. And for the most part, I thought they were going to lose. I thought the Penguins were going to lose this one, because after 2 periods, Flyers had a 1-0 lead off of Claude Giroux, lucky bounce goal. And, I mean, no team really mustered a lot on offense the first 2 periods. Each club only had 1 shot in the first 6 minutes. But somehow, like the Penguins have done on this winning streak, in the third period, they killed a huge 5-on-3. Or my mistake, the Penguins had a 5-on-3. And once that happened, Crosby got a power play goal. Great passes from Paul Martin and Bo Bennett to tie the game at 1. And game 1 ends up going to overtime. And who else but Tyler Kennedy, who has not really shown up at all this season, off a great shot, scores about 2.5 minutes into the overtime to give the Penguins a 2-1 win to continue the winning streak. And really, it was a great home win for the Penguins. And then you follow that up with Tuesday night in Brenden Morrow's debut, home against the Canadiens, who pretty much are going to battle the Penguins for that number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. It was a really close game, to say the least. Scoreless in the first period, and midway in the second period, who else? Again, Sidney Crosby. Great feed from Chris Kunitz and Brooks Orpik. Crosby was on the off wing, and Carey Price really couldn't get square to the shot. So, I mean, when you can't get square and you're going up against Sidney Crosby, then you know that the puck's just bound to go in. So the Penguins go up 1-0, and it turns out that that's the final score. So, just another incredible play by Marc-Andre Fleury. But the one thing in this game that was very questionable, to say the least, happened in the toward the end of the second period, where Kennedy was near Marc-Andre Fleury, and the Canadiens player Brian Gionta, he kind of stuck his left leg out a little bit, and Kennedy stumbled over it and then went barreling into Fleury. And Fleury was down for a while. He was able to finish the second period, but he did not return for the third period. And a lot of the Penguin players did not take a liking to that. They thought Gionta deliberately stuck his leg out there with an intent to injure someone. After seeing it on replay, I don't know. I'm saying that it wasn't intentional just because it was so close to tell. I mean, I don't think he purposely did it, but a lot of the Penguins players disagreed with that. And Vilkuin came in the third period. He didn't miss a beat. Played great goaltending. I mean, it was a 1-0 game in the third period, and he faced a lot of shots from the Canadiens, but he didn't flinch. Made a lot of good saves, and the Penguins, once again, hold on with the win. And so we head to Thursday night, where Douglas Murray makes his debut against the Winnipeg Jets. And in the game, Fleury, turns out that he had a sore neck. So he was not going to be dressed up as the backup for the game. Vilkuin was expected to start this game, though, originally about a week ago. So they bring up Jeff Zatkoff, who's been phenomenal in Wilkes-Barre, to be the backup. Thankfully, he did not see any action. Vilkuin, though, played a tremendous game. Once again, not letting up any goals. Another shutout. The Penguins started off the game a little sloppy early in their own zone, but toward the end of the period, Chris Kunitz gets his 20th of the year. Malkin returns, gets his 6th goal of the season, and it was a great shot off the skate. It wasn't a great shot, actually. It was off the skate and then bounced over the goal line. Penguins end up going up 2-0 at that point, and then winning the game 4-0 after Dupuis adds the last 2 goals. Just another tremendous game by the Penguins. They looked unstoppable in this game. They looked way overmatched for the Winnipeg Jets. And they did this without Chris Letang, who re-injured himself after the Canadiens game. He'd be out 7 to 10 days with what people said was a broken toe. So they're going to have to continue the streak without him, which I thought was a really big deal. And Bo Bennett hasn't played in a while due to all these trade moves, but he will be back up once the rosters do expand by the trade deadline. And now we culminate with the game yesterday. Jarome Iginla making his debut. There were some immigration issues, but they got that all settled and figured out. And he had a good line. He had a good couple shifts in this game. Didn't get any goals, had a couple shots. Penguins were able to hold on, winning the game. Another shutout, the third consecutive shutout. Vokoun played great goaltending once again, and they did this with a scary incident happening in the first period where Sidney Crosby was struck in the mouth with a Brooks Orpik, had to be at least 90-mile-per-hour shot that was deflected off Brad Boyes' stick and into Crosby's face. Had to leave the game, did not return, lost a few teeth, and actually had to have oral surgery yesterday. No word yet on how long Crosby will be out. So just the fact that they were able to do this with their star center leaving in the first period shows the mental toughness of this team, because most teams would break down saying, okay, we lost our superstar player. Wow, well, what are we going to do? And they were able to do it too without Chris Kunitz, who had got a game misconduct penalty in the second period. And that was a huge 5-minute penalty kill by the likes of Craig Adams, Matt Cook. It changed the momentum of this game. It was scoreless up to the third period. And then Vokoun, with his big save on a Michael Gradner breakaway, not even 6 or 7 minutes later in the game, Matt Cook gets a great goal. And then James Neal, finally, his first goal in 10 games, playing alongside Malkin, that helps. Got the second goal of the game. Penguins win it 2-0. And right now, 15 in a row. Three away from making a new record. And it's just amazing. They're doing it with great goaltending. The Penguins now have a new shutout streak, over 200 minutes of shutout hockey. Vokoun becomes the first goalie for the Penguins, which this surprised me, to get consecutive shutouts back-to-back. I don't remember ever seeing that. And the question is now, which streak's going to last longer, the winning streak or the shutout streak? So that's just going to be something really exciting to see. And, if Crosby's out for a couple games, I don't think it's going to matter that much, because now they got Iginla, they still have a powerful lineup. And like I said, when you have a line, when Crosby comes back, you have a line featuring Crosby, Kunitz, Dupuis, and then Neal, Malkin, Iginla. I'm pretty comfortable with each one beating a defenseman if they're one-on-one. They're going to need double-teamed, and that's going to leave other players open. So I think it's just this team, if they do not make the Stanley Cup final, it will be a failure. I think if they win it, that would be great. If they were still make it and lose, a lot of people would still be upset, but I still think that's a win for this team. And one of the big reasons that they're doing so well, definitely the defense. The defense has stepped it up, even with the absence of Letang. And now Martin did not play in this game against the Islanders. He will be out for at least 4 to 6 weeks with a broken bone. And he has been just one of the MVPs this year for the team. It's going to be tough to continuing to get wins. But, like I said, the Penguins are probably the best team right now in the NHL with depth at defenseman. Simone Dupré will just be inserted in there. Robert Bortuzzo if he needs to come up and contribute. The team's defense is the strong point right now. Murray and Niskanen. Orpik now paired with Eaton. And then you have Dupré with England or Bortuzzo. And then once Letang comes back, it's just a countless number of defensemen that are stepping up and playing well. And I think one of the unsung heroes, one of the underrated signings that will be talked about if the Penguins win the Cup, is Mark Eaton. Defensive specialist. They are undefeated with him in the lineup. They are 13-0 with Mark Eaton in the lineup. That's just amazing. And not a lot of people are really talking about him. I mean, they're saying that, he's a good defenseman. He's helped the club. But I think he's a very integral part in this team's success. And if he just continues to play well, I think this team will win the Cup. Because he played well when they made the Cup twice in 08 and 08 and 09, those 2 years. And he's doing it once again. So he is definitely the unsung hero of this team. And he is definitely a big part in why they are running away with the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. And now we're going to switch it up now to the Pittsburgh Pirates. The 25-man roster has been revealed. Well, actually now 26. Opening day tomorrow, 1:35, first game against the Cubs. And the Pirates lineup, which I predicted earlier, I was kind of close. Obviously, the starting lineup, you're going to have Marte in left, McCutchen in center, Snyder in right, Alvarez at third, Barmas at short, Walker at second, Garrett Jones at first, and then catching will be Russell Martin. A.J. Burnett will be your opening day pitcher. Now you look at the bench, and Brenden Inge made the team, but he will start most likely on the 15-day DL to begin the season. So, taking that fifth spot on the bench, Josh Harrison. Then you have John McDonald, who was recently signed. Then you have Michael McHenry as the backup catcher. Gabby Sanchez, who will be platooning a lot with Jones at first base. And then Jose Tabata got the last outfield spot over Felix P.A. and Alex Presley. I think this is Tabata's chance, to get his career back on track. And, he could really take the right field starting position away from Travis Snyder if he performs well. So that'll be something to really look forward to. And then rounding out the rotation, you got James McDonald, Wandy Rodriguez, Jonathan Sanchez, and then the fifth spot, which you thought was going to be Jeff Karstens rounding it out. But he has shoulder problems once again, scheduled to start in the final week of spring training. Scratched to start. He's now on the DL. Don't know for how long. And Jeff Locke was now granted the fifth spot. And his final start of the spring was in the final spring training game against the Yankees. Pitched really well. 6 innings, only 4 hits, no runs, no walks, 3 strikeouts. So that was a really good sign to see. And then in the bullpen, you're going to have the likes of Jason Gurley closing, Mark Melancone being your setup guy, Jared Hughes, Tony Watson, Justin Wilson. Throw those relievers in there and a few more. And the one that I'm really shocked at, Jean-Mar Gomez, or Jean-Mar, I'm not sure how you pronounce his first name. I don't know how he made this team over the likes, McPherson, who was did horrible as a starter, but I don't know why you wouldn't put him in as a reliever. Gomez had an ERA over 10. He didn't show me anything in spring training. So I'm just really surprised at how he is making the team. But I don't know, sometimes, players have horrible springs and then they do well in the regular season, so I guess we'll see how he fares this season. But with that, is this the year that the Pirates can break the losing season streak? I think it is. All starts with starting pitching. If their offense can still, show that pop that they had in the end of June, July, and August last year, they can't fall apart at the end of the year. Russell Martin, I think, is going to definitely help with throwing out runners. You're going to get more offense out of the catcher position. And then you just got to have big years again for McCutchen, Alvarez, Jones, and Walker. And injuries has to be limited. I know that's a lot of what-ifs, but I think it can happen for this team. And I just want to go over my predictions real quick for the MLB this year. I have the Pirates finishing at 86 and 76. Andrew McCutchen is their MVP. Wandy Rodriguez is their best pitcher. I see the Pirates just missing the playoffs. I think that the Braves and the Giants will grab the 2 wild card spots, along with the division winners, the Nationals, the Reds, and the Dodgers. I have the Nationals representing the National League in the World Series. My NL MVP is Matt Kemp, and my NL Cy Young winner is Chris Medlin of the Atlanta Braves. And then in the American League, I got the Blue Jays and the Athletics as the 2 wild card spots, and then the Orioles, Tigers, and Angels winning the division, and the Angels I have winning the American League and advancing to the World Series to play the Nationals. And my AL MVP, who else can you choose but Mike Trout? Had a stellar rookie season. I think his sophomore season is going to be even better. And then my AL Cy Young goes to Justin Verlander, who is virtually a lock to be in the final 3 voting tally for that award. And I see the Angels winning the World Series this year. I just think that they have the best lineup. Their pitching staff's a lot better. And I think it's going to be one heck of a series with them in the Nationals. Steven Strasburg, C.J. Wilson, Pujols, Hamilton, Harper, Zimmerman. The list goes on and on for the great matchups in that series. But I just think the Angels are going to rise to the top and bring the World Series back to the American League. And I also want to talk real quick about Russell Sell for the Panthers. He said that he was thinking about transferring out of Pitt. Don't know what's going on there with that situation, like if it's something with his family or whatnot. Paul Chris decided to let him to stay away from team activities for a while, just to get his mind clear, because there's still a chance that he could still stay. But it's a little surprising to me. I think it's something, a personal reason. So we're going to definitely keep an eye on that. Definitely get into more of that on next week's show. And finally, the NCAA tournament, where half of the Final Four is completed now. Syracuse and Wichita State, still I'm shocked, and it's fitting because their names are shockers, that they beat Ohio State last night. Louisville, Duke today, Michigan, Florida. I think it's going to be a great day for college basketball, and it's really just going to be a sight to see. And we're going to have the national championship preview on next week's show. Right now, I'm not sure who it's going to be, just because the other teams haven't played. I think it's going to end up being Duke and Syracuse in the title game, and I think it's going to be a heck of a matchup with the likes of Coach K and Jim Boeheim. So that'll definitely be something to look forward to. And finally, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the coaching changes that have occurred right now, currently in the world of college basketball. UCLA fired Ben Howland after, he got them to the NCAA tournament. Their best player got injured in the Pac-12 tournament. They lost to Minnesota by 20 in the first round. I understand that UCLA is about winning. What have you done for me lately? But he reached 3 straight Final Fours in 05, 06, 07, made the title game in 06. They've had winning seasons in the past, over the past 5 years. There was a stretch where they didn't make the NCAA tournament for a year. But guess what? Ben Howland is one of the best coaches right now in the game. You saw that when he coached Pitt, turned that team around. I think this year there's not going to be that many good job openings. So I think he's going to sit the year out, and then next year I think he's going to get hired by a team, and they're going to have a great coach in hand. And the vacancy was filled yesterday when UCLA hired New Mexico coach Steve Alford, and I think it's a good hire. Alford's 155 and 52 in 6 seasons with the Lobos. That's a 749 winning percentage. And New Mexico has been a dangerous team in the Mountain West. They had one of the best home court advantages in the league. I think he's going to carry that over to UCLA, and I'm not saying that he's going to come out and take them to the championship in the next few years, which is something I know UCLA expects him to. But I think just he's a good all-around coach. He's definitely going to help with recruiting. They're still going to get stars there, and I think it's just going to be a good fit for them in the long haul. And the other coaching vacancy right now is at Minnesota, where they fired Tubby Smith, another great coach in the league. After 6 rough seasons, I guess you would say, at Minnesota, they never finished above 6th place in the Big Ten. 46 and 62 record in Big Ten play. I guess they just didn't feel like that was cutting it enough. And I don't know what you can say though about the job that Tubby Smith did there. They don't have a practice facility, and it didn't help a lot with recruiting. And the fact that that he still was able to get the likes of Mbakwe, Ralph Sampson III, Andre Hollins. You start getting these great players, and I still think they should have gave him more time there. And it stinks that he got fired, but he's already in talks with Texas Tech, and I'm sure he's going to get hired by them because Tubby Smith, ever since I started watching college basketball, he's been a great coach. And I think he's just going to turn Texas Tech back into a really recognizable team in the coming years. And I think the theme that we saw with these openings was that they tried to reach out to Brad Stevens at Butler and Shaka Smart at VCU. Both declined. They like where they're at Butler and VCU. So-called, not your prototypical major teams, but they win. And they like the players there. They like the relationship they have with the athletic directors, and I think that's one of the underrated things. When you're coaching at a university where you have a great relationship with the staff, the players, your family likes it there, and with the AD, you don't want to leave going into a university where you're going to have a bunch of pressure on you. You got to get your whole new staff together, and then it's a whole new AD. That's something that you really have to look at. So I think you're going to see a lot more coaches staying with these lower level teams just because it's a great fit. And if they win there, why would you leave? You don't fix what ain't broken. You stay at Butler, you stay at VCU. They're gonna make deep runs in the tournaments because they already have in the past. So that's something you just got to look at. But that'll do it though on this shortened edition of the Sports Wrap with Michael Kravetz. Next week we'll be still talking about the Pens. Will their winning streak continue up to this point? And the Pirates will be first weekend of their season. Just a lot of good stuff to get into. So thank you for listening. Have a happy Easter. Signing off, I'm Michael Kravetz, and you just listened to the Sports Wrap.